Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now this week it's time to go full Breath of the Wild, grab our steam-powered Pokeballs, and talk about Pokémon Legends Arceus. Now a few weeks ago, if you missed it, the Pokemon Company announced that we would be getting the Diamond and Pearl remakes that we had been waiting for many years. Now the only problem with that announcement is it wasn't exactly what the community were looking for. Now typically in Pokemon when they do a remake, what they do is they take an old game and then they just bring it into the current generation. Because of that, everyone was expecting us to get Diamond and Pearl remakes basically in the style of Sword and Shield. You have wild areas and that kind of stuff. It would be properly 3D, it wouldn't be on a grid-based system like the old games were. However, what we were treated to was a much more faithful remake. It played on the grid system as if it was one of the original handheld Pokemon games, and it's just sort of been revitalized, similarly to Link's Awakening, the treatment that got. Now, I'm not opposed to this necessarily, it was pretty disappointing when we've been hoping for these remakes for a long time. Now, as I said, of course, that was a bit disappointing. However, there were a couple of glimmers of hope that also came out of this Pokemon Presents showcase that we got the other week. The first of which is that these new remakes of the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, which are called Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, aren't going to be made exclusively by Game Freak. They're actually being made by a third-party developer with the original director of the Diamond and Pearl games on board to sort of give it guidance. Now, this is an interesting decision because what it means is that Pokemon can focus on other projects, other main series games. And that's the exciting bit of news that we got from this effectively direct. Of course, I'm talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now, from what we've got so far, and it's very early sort of game engine footage, this game looked incredible. As I alluded to in the introduction before the titles, it very much is the Pokemon Breath of the Wild game that we've been wanting ever since Pokemon came to Switch and came to the home console in general. Now, so far what we've got is pretty promising. We're seeing a sort of ancient Pokemon story set way before anything that we've encountered so far in the Pokemon universe. And it also has this sort of just general impression of being a much more free game, much more open world, and very interesting. Now all of this hype and anticipation has so many people excited, and so many people are putting together their top hopes for this game and what it's going to be. And of course, I'm no different to that. So in this video, I'm going to be talking through my top 5 hopes for Pokemon Legends Arceus. Number 5, some allusion to Diamond and Pearl. Now this one, of course, is probably a given. I mean, you can't set a game in Sinnoh without referring to the titles that originally came in this region. Now, what I mean by this, though, is I want some sort of very specific, almost reward for playing this game, or maybe a reward for playing the original games. Maybe something in this game makes a lot more sense because you played Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum. Or maybe something in those games has a new light to it because you played this game. You get more backstory on something existing. However, there is one caveat to that, and it is I don't want this game to alienate new players. Because I think that something that this game could definitely do is bring in a lot of the audience that were attracted into the Zelda franchise by Breath of the Wild. In a similar way, they can take that and do that for Pokemon, which I think is probably what they're trying to do here with Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now, exactly how they'd achieve this, I'm not 100% sure. I think probably the most likely way, though, and it's something that a lot of other PokeTubers have sort of mentioned when they've been looking into the trailer, is some allusion to Team Galactic. Now, I'm sure you've probably noticed if you've seen this direct and if you're a Pokemon fan, that the outfits that the two protagonists are wearing have a strange insignia on the sleeves of the arm, and this insignia sort of looks an awful lot like the Team Galactic logo. In fact, we'll probably put a picture of both of them up here somewhere so that you can see. They're pretty similar. Now also this logo also appears on one of the flags in the office behind the starter Pokemon when we see them in the trailer as well, and it just looks like it's going to be fairly significant. Now, if this isn't a connection to Team Galactic, it's very weird because this is literally the region where Team Galactic are so powerful, and why wouldn't they have some allusion to that if these things look the same? It seems too coincidental to not be connected in some way. I think just something like this, even if it's fairly minor, even if it's just alluding to the fact that whatever organisation has this insignia somehow becomes Team Galactic later in the future, but isn't necessarily even the biggest plot point of the game, I would be totally fine with that. Number 4, the ability to play it your own way. Now, in recent generations, Pokemon has been introducing more and more customization. In Pokemon Sword and Shield, you finally got full sort of creative control over how your character looked, how they dressed, and all that kind of stuff. You even got to make your own Pokemon lead card, which was a nice little touch as well. Now, I think that this stuff will probably return. If it doesn't, it'll be quite disappointing. But not only that, I also hope that they build on this a little bit more and allow you to play the game in your own way to an even greater extent. If this really is the Pokemon equivalent to Breath of the Wild, then I think that they should take heed of some of the stuff that happens in that game. Like just how in Breath of the Wild, some of the clothing items that you wear can give you heat resistances or lightning resistances and that kind of stuff. I think Pokemon should employ a very similar thing. That way not only can you choose the way you look and the way you dress, but it also has some relevance to the game itself. Perhaps you can get gloves that increase your Pokeball throwing accuracy. Maybe even you have boots or sandals that can lower your movement noise so you don't freak out wild Pokemon. And on that note, maybe even a jacket that maybe reduces your visibility so that you blend in. Camouflage, effectively. Maybe these items can also be improved so they give you more benefit in other ways as well, similarly again to Breath of the Wild. Maybe even you have a mechanism where you can improve your Pokeballs. Instead of having the tiered system that you currently have in Pokemon where you have a Pokeball, then a Great Ball, then an Ultra Ball and all that kind of stuff, instead it's sort of the precursor to that and you have your Pokeballs and you can work on them, maybe on a workbench or something, give them different features. You basically create all of the Pokeballs that we see, or at least prototypes of the Pokeballs that we see in the main franchise. Maybe you can tweak it so that it works better on aquatic Pokemon or something like that, and you've made yourself a dive ball or something like that. I think that this could be a really good feature, and it's the exact kind of thing that I would love to see in these games. At the end of the day, I just want Pokemon to have much more of an RPG feel than it even had already. It kind of felt like for a long time that it's kind of sort of almost a full RPG, but if they introduce these, it'll be a more grown-up feel, a more proper grown-up RPG for the sort of grown-up Pokemon that I think we're going to see in this generation. Number 3, a new fleshed-out mechanic. Now, I kind of touched on this aspect a little bit in the last entry with the sort of customization of Pokeballs and that kind of stuff, but basically what I would love to see in these games is a few more real-world RPG elements, some of the more RPG elements that we see in other games such as Skyrim, such as Knights of the Republic and that kind of stuff. Now, whether this be an exciting new feature that we've not seen before or one of the tried and tested ones that we've sort of grown accustomed to in other games, I'm not sure, but I would just love to see this in a more fleshed out Pokemon title. Now, something that could be quite interesting is maybe giving you skill points and leveling up features. Maybe you can sort of spend points on your throwing ability, on your ability to tend to Pokemon, you're like looking after them or something, or maybe your medicine skill so that healing items do more healing on Pokemon and that kind of stuff. That kind of thing would really flesh out a game and sort of make the game play differently for every player, which is something that I think the Pokemon franchise could really benefit from. Now, there's been rumours that there's been a few different kinds of features that might appear in this game, and we've already got some of the little things like maybe being able to climb stuff like in Breath of the Wild, being able to roll and jump and that kind of stuff, which we've, to be honest, not even had. It's weird that we've not even really had jumping before in the Pokemon games. But all of these kind of things would be beneficial, and also there's a rumour floating about that we might get sort of overworld boss battles where you can sort of, you see a health bar above the head. A bit like in Breath of the Wild where you fight one of the many sort of more difficult creatures that you see out there. I think this could be really interesting. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out in the game if it does happen, but something like that would be really engaging and something that sort of sets this game apart even more than it already is. Some new Pokemon. Now, you may think that this is an absolute certainty, but I wouldn't be too sure about that. Now, this game is set in the past, and part of the mechanic behind it is that you are setting up Sinnoh's first Pokédex. Because of that, you might expect that you're only going to get the Pokemon that are found in Sinnoh in Diamond and Pearl. And that is a real concern. Not only that, but also Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, because they're faithful remakes of those original games, they're probably not going to introduce new Pokemon either. If they do, it would be a little bit of a surprise. However, I don't think that our hope should be completely down on this. I definitely think there are ways that they can introduce new Pokemon, and I think that they definitely should. Now, obviously, as I said, you are setting up the first Pokédex in Sinnoh, and I think the key aspect of that is it's the first Pokédex of Sinnoh. It's not necessarily the same set of Pokemon that we see by the time we get to Diamond and Pearl. Now, I think the way that they could achieve this is that maybe there was a Pokemon that migrated from another region that's since left Sinnoh again, maybe something from another upcoming region. We got sort of teased in Sword and Shield that there might be an India-based region of some kind. Maybe we'll see another Pokemon along those kind of lines come up in this game. Not only that, if it's long enough ago that this game is set, it is possible that some Pokemon have actually just evolved. Maybe we could get Sinnoh forms. That is something that a lot of people have been wanting from the sort of Sinnoh games, the remakes. And maybe we could get them in this one. There's a possibility that Pokemon Legends Arceus could bring us the Sinnoh forms, but with a bit more backstory that actually those adaptations are no longer needed, and then they become the Pokemon that we see today. An example that I came up with was maybe for Glameow, for example. Glameow is basically just kind of a domestic cat, really. But maybe the Arceus form, I guess, of Glameow could be sort of a bit more of a feral wild cat. Maybe that would make sense. Maybe sort of as civilization built up in this area, it's not needed to be quite such a wild animal anymore, and then it becomes the Glameow that we know today. I think this could be a feature that really could work for this. Not only that, there could just be Pokemon that have gone extinct. Extinction in the Pokemon world is a thing, as we can see from all the fossil Pokemon that you find in every region. Now, I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that we'll see the Sinnoh fossils roaming about, but maybe there's other Pokemon that we could see. Maybe the Pokemon equivalent to the Dodo or something like that could be walking around. Who knows? I think there are a lot of ways that they could still introduce a new Pokemon, even with this game being set in the past, and I'm excited to see how they might try this. And number one, a rich backstory. Now, I think that this sort of requirement that I'm looking for from Pokemon Legends Arceus is actually quite a basic one. It's a little bit easy for me to say I want this sort of rich backstory and a compelling sort of narrative throughout the game. It's also one of the hardest things for them to achieve. Now, the beautiful looks and the big open world, Breath of the Wild vibe is all well and good, but I think it would feel a little bit disappointing and a bit lacking in heart if there wasn't also some really good story or something that's bringing us back to it. Now, I think it's clear just from the branding of this game that they're definitely going to be going into some sort of lore and backstory, and I think it'd be mad if they didn't in a game literally called Pokémon Legends, because, I mean, what else would they do with this game? Now, I don't think necessarily even the story itself has to be perfect. It doesn't need to be an amazing story. Again, take Breath of the Wild. The actual story of that game isn't much different to a normal Zelda game. At the end of the day, you have to go as Link, save Zelda, defeat Ganon, and rescue Hyrule. But it's the lore that really makes that game stand out. It's the sort of the backstory, the story of the war that happened hundreds of years ago that really make this game stand out. And the fact that you get elements of that throughout the game and little hints to that is what makes that game good. The only criticism a lot of people have of Breath of the Wild is that the game feels a little bit empty, and I hope that that's something that they might sort of think about a little bit with Pokemon Legends, but based on the initial looks, it does look like it is going to be quite a sort of empty open world. Not that that'll be a problem in this scenario though, because the sort of vibe of the game is the exploration and the sort of research and discovery of new Pokemon, and because of that, as long as they had good sort of framing around that, I don't see why that isn't almost a good enough game in itself. Don't get me wrong though, I think there is definitely going to be a bigger overarching story, probably something to do with Team Galactic or something like that. And of course it will relate to Arceus in some way, and probably the other legendaries of the region as well, whether that's Giratina, or you've got Palkia, or you've got Dialga, or whether it's any of them involved, I'm not 100% sure. I just want there to be some sort of meat to this game. I'm sure they will deliver, they're spending a lot more time and energy on this game, and I just hope they know that there's a lot of pressure on them. Of course they do. Let's hope it's amazing. Okay, that's it. That's my top 5 hopes for the upcoming Pokémon Legends Arceus game. What do you think of my opinions? Let me know what you're expecting to be in this game in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Every like and every subscribe goes a really long way. So until next time, be the very best like no one ever was.